Okay, I think we're all ready to start, please. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kapoor, and good afternoon. It's been some time since we gathered in this setting. My name is Michael Dowry. I serve as receiver for the city of Chester. I'm joined here today by our esteemed colleagues to have the Municipal Financial Recovery Advisory Committee meeting. Today's Tuesday, July 25th, 2023. On behalf of Governor Wolf's office and Department of Community and Economic Development, we are joined by Mr. Andrew Sheaf. And on behalf of Delaware County Council, we are joined by Ms. Kelly Diaz. And as usual, for our team, I'm joined by Mr. Vijay Kapoor, serving as Chief of Staff on this engagement, and Mr. Cody Dill, Executive on loan, so to speak, from Department of Community and Economic Development as well. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Right. Well, we did receive communication from Councilman Morgan that he will not be able to join us here today. We will continue on with our agenda and also today's presentation. Our first item of business is to address any public comment. Mr. Diaz, are you prepared to address that?
Yes, thank you. So we did receive one public comment since our last meeting. It was a request from Brian Borger, and he asked, I would like to know where you are with contract talks with the FOP, if in fact your office is acting on behalf of the city during this time, because we are continuing to hemorrhage good quality officers to more well-equipped and paid surrounding departments.
Thank you for that, Mr. Dill. Mr. Kapoor, I'm going to ask you to fully respond to it, but I think it's safe to say that labor contract negotiations are going to be addressed as a part of the federal bankruptcy process and the mediations that are already ongoing. But to give a more succinct answer, Mr. Kapoor, would you like to add anything?
Sure. No, I think that's right, Mr. Receiver. I think, in terms of where the labor negotiations will be, they will likely be taking place later on this year as part of the bankruptcy mediation process. Part of what is going on right now is on our end trying to do some additional analysis here to figure out what exactly how much the city really needs in order to operate at an appropriate level, and we're looking at everything from staffing to employee compensation. We think at this point, because a lot of that analysis has not yet been done, it's premature to start sitting down with the bargaining units. I think as we are able to get more data, as we're able to, I think, be more prepared to be able to sit down and talk about what Chester needs as a whole in order to operate, again, at an appropriate level, that's going to be the right time to really sit down with the unions. We do recognize the fact that we do have police officers leaving here in Chester. I think that's happening across the country. Departments across the country, from small departments to large metropolitan departments, are facing similar issues, and it's something that certainly we want to address as part of the negotiations. One other point I will make, though, since we are talking about police issues, there's as many of you know who have been following the MFRAC and the Chester situation from the start, one of the most significant issues that we have faced here is trying to make sure that the police pension plan doesn't run out of money. Back when the receiver was appointed, when Mr. Dowry was appointed as receiver back in June of 2020, the pension fund had approximately 3 to 4 months of benefits left in it. It's around $1.75 million that was in the plan in order to pay the benefits of police pensioners. I'm happy to say at this point, as of the June 2023 police numbers, the pension plan has approximately $8.4 million in it, or about 15 months of benefits left in it. Certainly a long way to go, but we're in better shape than where we were when we started, and that was as a result of a lot of the actions that the receiver has taken and continues to take. So that's not to take away from the comment. We certainly understand it. We hope we've answered your question there. But we're trying to address obviously a variety of matters here in the city. And I think it's safe to say, for all employees, that's part of why we want to get this bankruptcy process resolved as quickly as possible. It's why we need as much cooperation from everybody involved as possible, because I don't think we're going to fix all these problems, recruitment, retention, until people feel that there is stability here in the city. And that's only going to come as a result of, I think, a successful and a cooperative bankruptcy process.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Mr. Dill, I know that was quite a bit. If you could try to capture that and provide a direct response to the public comment, I greatly appreciate it. We do have a presentation here today, and we do want to provide just some general updates. Mr. Kapoor, would you like to combine your updates with today's presentation, or is there any table them as separate items?
I can just put it together. I mean, we just really quickly here. As most of you know, we're still awaiting a decision from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court on the 2023 modified plan that has to do with the powers of the receiver versus the powers of the elected officials. It's been 2 months to the day, actually, since the oral argument in Harrisburg in front of the Supreme Court. And again, we don't have a timetable on our end as to when a decision may be rendered. We have a new CFO, as many of you know, Jim Lathrop, who is continuing to work with the finance department as he has come on a couple of weeks ago. One of his main goals in the short term is making sure that we have solid financial reporting, and so that we are able to, not only report out to the public, but also to use it for projections and our own internal use. So Jim has been working hard with the finance department and has really hit the ground running. So we're happy to have him as part of the Chester team here. The bankruptcy process, many of you, may be wondering what's going on over here. Again, there's a lot of work that's happening behind the scenes in order to try and have, more solid numbers so that we can sit down and have fruitful discussions with all the parties involved. So I don't want folks to think that there's nothing really going on. There is, and the mediation process obviously continues. One area that we're also looking at, in addition to kind of figuring out expenses, is looking at revenues. And what I have for the committee today is a presentation on the realty transfer tax, which was recently approved by City Council and set to go into effect on September 1st. So if the committee's okay, what I'm going to do is just go through a short presentation that I have that covers the realty transfer tax, or as it's also known, the deed transfer tax. And can all of you see the presentation up? Is that up on your screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thumbs up. All right, great. Well, let me take you through this. This is not going to be a particularly long presentation, but happy to answer any questions from the committee as we go through it. Let's talk about what this is. And for most of you who are outside Chester, who may be watching this in Pennsylvania, this is going to be something that you're probably pretty familiar with. Effective September 1st of this year, Chester is going to begin levying a 1.5% realty transfer tax. It's also known as a deed transfer tax on the sale or the transfer of real estate or interest in real estate within Chester's borders. Previously, what the city had done was it had levied a $10 per transaction charge. So a realty transfer tax is when you buy or sell, essentially when you buy or sell property within a community. This 1.5% rate, and typically what happens is there's a percentage that in taxes that is levied on that the parties are jointly liable for, and they decide how to pay it in the settlement. This 1.5% rate is going to be split evenly with the city and the Chester Upland School District. And this 1.5% realty transfer tax is going to be in addition to the 1% realty tax already levied by the Commonwealth, the state, for a total tax rate of 2.5%. And this, again, is a very, very common tax to levy. According to the Commonwealth statistics, Chester was actually the only municipality not to levy the realty transfer tax in Delaware County. Sorry, I should have in Delaware County. And I should say there's thousands of municipalities in Pennsylvania who levy this, and hundreds of school districts who do as well. So the way that this works is, probably the easiest way to do this is to give you an example. So let's just assume John sells his house to Brian for $100,000. The overall rate that they are going to have to pay in the realty transfer tax is $2,500. That's 2.5% of $100,000. So 1% or $1,000 will go to the Commonwealth. That has been since the beginning. And then 1.5% or $1,500 is going to be split evenly between the city of Chester and the Chester Upland School District. So the city's going to get $750 and the Chester Upland School District will get $750. So again, the parties that are part of the transaction will pay $2,500 in this example. And you can see here on the slide how it'll get split between the Commonwealth, the Chester Upland School District, and the city of Chester. John and Brian in this example, they're jointly liable to pay the bill. And usually there's an agreement at closing on how it's going to split, how the tax bill is split. It's usually 50-50, but that's really up to the parties to decide how they want to do it. So is this a new tax? For Chester, yes, but for Pennsylvania, no. And again, Chester was the last community in Delaware County to levy this tax. This tax for the state and for other municipalities has been on the books probably really for decades at this point. And thousands of municipalities in the Commonwealth, as well as hundreds of school districts, including the Chester Upland School District, actually already levied. And again, previously, if you had bought or sold property in Chester levied a $10 per transaction fee, and that is going to be eliminated as part of this. You can either do that fee, or you can do the realty transfer tax. And obviously it makes a lot more sense for Chester to do the realty transfer tax as opposed to this $10 per fee transaction. So in terms of answering a couple of questions here, for those of you who may be asking or want to know a little bit more about what this is, in terms of which transactions will be taxed, other than a few exceptions set by Pennsylvania law, it's going to be levied on any transaction involving the sale or transfer of real estate or an interest of real estate in Chester. It really has to do with real estate. So includes transactions where the buyer and the seller may be located outside of the city, but the property is in Chester. It's all about where the property is. Real estate that's transferred through a sale is going to be based on the sale price, plus any encumbrances or liens that are on the property. So it's going to be that percentage times the sale price plus any encumbrances or liens. Where you've got other kinds of transactions where they get transacted for a much lower amount, such as via a gift or foreclosure, that is taxed at the property's assessed value, which is adjusted for the market value. The Delaware County Recorder of Deeds will be the entity that will be collecting the realty transfer tax. And they do that at the time that the property transfer documents are recorded. Usually when the deed is recorded in the county is when those payments happen. And Delaware County, the Recorder of Deeds, will be remitting that, will be sending that money to the city of Chester and to the Chester Upland School District. So it's not additional work on Chester staff or tax here in Chester. The other question that many people may want to be knowing is, how much do you think we'll be actually able to get from this, and where will the money go? So because this is the first time Chester is levying the tax, we don't have a great idea exactly as to what that may be. We have sort of limited information to project, but our finance folks think that this tax will bring in about $750,000 annually, so about $750,000 annually. Obviously, because here in Chester, it's going to be effective September 1st. We're only going to have about September, October, November, December, 4 months of this. So probably close to $200,000 this year is what we would expect. But again, once this goes live, we'd expect about $750,000 to come in, and of course we'll adjust those projections accordingly once the real data starts coming in. Where this money can be used, so how Chester can use the money, that will go into the city's general fund, just like regular property taxes. And it'll be used to pay for the cost of providing vital and necessary services to residents. So that's the presentation I have, kind of very short and sweet. Happy to answer any questions that the committee may have or any comments that you may have on this.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kapoor, opening it up to the committee. All right, none. Oh, Andrew, I thought you had something for us there.
No, sorry, Mr. Receiver. I was just gonna say, it's very few and far between. If you'll find a municipality that doesn't have a realty deed transfer tax. So from a statewide perspective, it does seem appropriate. It's difficult to budget for sometimes, just because you never know how much property is going to transfer from year to year. So, and you guys know this, you maybe look at more of a long trend when putting that budget together. But it seems to me it's a positive development.
Certainly. Thank you. We will be conservative in our numbers of budgeting moving forward, and until we have some historical data really to go by. Thank you for that, Mr. Sheep. The context is greatly appreciated. Any additional comments, Ms. Diaz? Or?
No, right. Sounds good. Thanks for the explanation.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Kapoor. So we'll move to wrapping up the meeting, but before doing so, I do have a couple general updates. One, I wanted to mention the traffic study. We've been working with the Chester Upland School District to work on a traffic study for crossing guards, and really looking at safe routes to school for our children, for the children of Chester. That project has been moving forward. This Thursday at 5 p.m. at the Edgemont STEM Academy, there is a public meeting to review the draft report and give any additional final input before the engineer finalized the report here in early August. So we're encouraged by that. I know that the City of Chester Public Works Department, as well as the Chester Upland School District, have already started diving into the recommendations, even before the report is finalized, to start acting on some of the line painting, traffic calming procedures that were outlined in the report. So certainly encouraged by that. And Mr. Dill, if it isn't up already, could you just make sure that our social media posts and website have additional information about that? Also want to mention that after this meeting, we'll be attending a webinar with Senator Casey's office. Senator Casey's office is bringing more information about a federal program, the Recompete Grant, the opportunity for some additional planning dollars. So I'm looking forward to participating in that and bringing more information back to the city. Also want to always mention recruiting. Please continue to visit the city's website for vacancies. There are a number that continue to change throughout the year as we continue to press forward to recruiting. Mr. Kapoor mentioned the recently adding the CFO, but there are more key leadership positions that we need to fill. And we need everyone's help and support in identifying the right candidates for these positions. So please continue to visit the city's website and share, as we want the best and brightest coming out for these opportunities. Also want to mention, because we don't want to blindside anyone, the parking RFP process is still moving forward. There will be interviews here conducted soon, and we would expect to have a vendor identified for the short-term enforcement, more specifically in the residential parking permit program, but then more importantly, the parking study that is to commence here, hopefully before the end of this year, and really set the stage for what parking should look like moving forward in the city of Chester. So looking forward to identifying that vendor, but just the general update for this committee at this point is that the process continues to move forward, and hopefully we'll be wrapping up the RFP process here soon. My last comment is more of a question for Ms. Diaz, putting you on the spot, but not really to answer it here now. But I do want to kind of ask you the question in front of the committee and hope that you would be able to bring some information back to the committee, to us. And that is dealing with the Delaware County Solid Waste Authority. I know that the authority entered into a relatively short term agreement with the local incinerator, and just want to get some insight into how that relationship is evolving, or where the parties see it going more long term, as I believe the current contract was pretty short, if not a year, maybe 2 years. So at your convenience, if you could bring some information back on that, I appreciate it.
I will certainly do that.
Thank you for that. That's all of the updates that I have. Does anybody have any questions for me or anything to address? All right, well, hearing none, I'll say thank you again. It was good to reconvene and get this group together. I look forward to seeing everyone again on a more regular basis moving forward. But at the same time, we don't want to waste anyone's time, and summer schedules can be challenging. So until next time, thank you again for the participation. We will meet again on the second and fourth Tuesday in August. Look for communication coming out from Mr. Dale, more details about that. Thank you and have a good day.